Good day to all of you out there. Welcome to the program agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, your host, and today is November 2020. Okay, so 11/20/2020. It's a Friday, it's a weekend. I hope you are all somewhat mentally, emotionally recovered from the parade of typhoons and all of these headaches we are facing. But today we will discuss what some people are trying to do about it, and you just so that we can update people. We invite you to watch Agenda via Signal TV, channels 8 and 250. And if you haven't subscribed to Signal TV, you, of course, can still watch us via facebook.com/onenewsph or go to YouTube and put in One News PH. But I do encourage you and invite you to subscribe to Signal TV. Siyempre naman po, supportahan supportahan nyo ko. Okay? In any case, this morning we will be speaking with Representative, 2nd District of Marikina Representative, Congresswoman Stella Quimbo. And we will discuss itong mga problema. First, let's get an update on what happened to her district in Marikina. I think they're still cleaning up. And then, of course, what she's doing as a legislator. I believe Congresswoman Quimbo is alongside Congressman Joey Salceda. They're now really pushing for a third tranche of the Bayanihan funds because mukhang mabubutas talaga ang bulsa, baka kulangin ng pera. So we will talk to her about that. We will also be speaking to a regular of Agenda as well, Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor for Entrepreneurship. You may not have noticed it with everything that's going on, but I believe Joey Concepcion's Go Negosyo is observing or celebrating, if that would be the appropriate term, marking its 15th anniversary. 15 years na yata ang Go Negosyo. And we will also talk to him about what's happening as far as COVID tests are concerned, community testings are concerned. Kasi may mga nagtatanong, bakit parang tumahimik na sila, Joey? They should be in the forefront pushing for the lower prices of COVID. What COVID test? What happened to the saliva test, etc. And last but not the least, let's catch up with Irene Dumlao, spokesperson of the DSWD, to get a feel of what's happening on the ground. Kaya ba ng DSWD? Kinakapos ba ang DSWD? Are there enough people helping? More really for people to get an appreciation of what government alongside private sector are trying to do to take care of our displaced kababayans all over the country who were affected nung Santa Cruzan ng mga perwisyong bagyo. In any case, let's first take a look at the front page of the Philippine Star. And there you go. Taking the spotlight in today's paper, U.S. vaccines may be used within weeks as President Rodrigo Duterte has approved early payment for COVID-19 vaccines. Hindi, medyo yung US vaccines baka susubukan na nila sa Amerika. Tayo naman, pumupusta na. We are, I think the President is moving for the authorization of advance payment placement with the U.S. vaccine manufacturers to make sure that we have ample supply. Okay, on the right-hand side of the page, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, says home test kits for COVID-19 may soon be available. Kasi right now, yan nga po yung pinagpupuputak ko. And I'll be honest about it. I've been like a cackling hen, kicking up a fuss about this testing for COVID. Because right now, the prices are still at the range of 3.5. Kung makahanap ka ng 3.5, according to some government officials, or up to 6,000 on the average. Yung sa Red Cross yata, 4 3 or something like that, or whatever. The prices are so varied, you can't figure it out anymore. So a home testing kit, well, it won't be exact science, pero kung medyo nagkakaubo-ubo, sinisipon, nilalagnat na kayo sa isang bahay, 10 kayo, a home test kit would make a big difference if, everybody goes like, ping, 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 everybody's infected, nobody leaves. Okay. And then at the top, the Justice Department says the Office of the Vice President or OVP won't be spared in their corruption probe. Forgive me, Secretary Menardo Guevara. May nagtatanong ba? Kasi parang, this focus on the Office of the Vice President, it's like a self-inflicted political wound on the administration. When the president, rants at the vice president, when the president's people attacks the vice president, and then you have a declaration here of the Office of Department of Justice saying, hindi ma-exempt yung OBP na yan. It's beginning to look a lot, not like Christmas, it is beginning to look a lot and sound a lot like campaign. Parang mayroon ng mga gustong gibain yung front runner para yung mga medyo dehado, medyo hindi pa buo, hindi pa makabilib-bilib nakakandidatong president in 2022, magkaroon ng pagkakataong makabuelo. I don't know. I'm just calling it what it is, because why do you even have to say that? I mean, the president called out DPWH, the president called out some other people, pero para kayong sing that tune eh. In any case, okay, at the lower half of the page, President Duterte is ready to join US President Donald Trump. He's still president up to January of 2021, US President Donald Trump, Chinese President Xi Jinping, and Russian Vladimir Putin in the virtual Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC, which is, good. At least may presence tayo doon. We are invited, or at least I'm assuming the president will be among the world leaders. And the question is whether the Donald is going to be present or would rather play golf somewhere in Florida. Okay, so in other news, the University of the Philippines reiterated that it does not recruit for communist groups. Okay, medyo I think this is in relation to the president's attack attack on critics from the University of the Philippines. Pero medyo katatawa po ito kasi mayroon daw cabinet official na nagsabi, sinabi ko sa kanya yung mga gustong mag-strike, yung mga tiga-Ateneo ang napuntirya niya yung tiga-UP. Paano niya pupuntirin yung mga tiga-Ateneo? Ang nagbabayad ng tuition ng mga tiga-Ateneo, nanay at tatay ng mga Blue Eagles, hindi yung gobyerno. Okay? In any case, good news naman. A Pinoy student wins this year's James Dyson Awards. And the Agriculture Department says that the Philippines is likely to continue and even hike importing of rice next year. Ayan na nga ba sinasabi ko hindi na tayo magkaintindihan. Umpisa tayo sabihin, we have too much rice. Some people will say, we have sufficient rice. Some people will say, we have rice good enough for, 3 months. And now we're talking about importing rice. I don't know, alam niyo mga kaibigan, baka oras na po na magtipid-tipid kayo. Maybe it's about time we all start cutting back on our rice consumption so we can cut back on our obesity, so we can cut back on diabetes, so we can cut back on renal failure, so we can cut back on nandiyan na. Nakalimutan ko i-silent telephone Diba? Kasi kung lumapa tayo ng kanin, parang yun na yung pinakapagkain staple lang yun, pero hindi dapat na nagiging main event. Okay, let's move on to our first guest. always a delight, always an educational experience and an encourager. We have with us the representative of the 2nd District of Manila, Marikina, Congresswoman Stella Quimbo. Congresswoman, pasensya na kayo, nire-relocate ko kayo para ka refugee.
Magandang umaga, Cito, and to
Okay.
all the viewers. Good morning.
Okay. Kung how I'm sorry but I have to ask the questions. How are your constituents? Kamusta po ba diyan sa Marikina? Kasi parang ayoko na talagang pumunta baka ma-depress lang ako. Kamusta na ba ang sitwasyon?
Well, we have 2 barangays that are adversely affected by the floods, yung Barangay Tumana and Barangay Nangka. Hanggang sa ngayon po, medyo buried in mud and garbage pa rin po kami hanggang sa ngayon. So, naglilinis pa rin po. And many of the families continue to stay in the evacuation centers.
Okay, Tumana and please correct me no kasi pag kung mali naman mali hindi ako masyadong well versed but I have this general impression that Barangay Tumana is really a low-lying area that is near some river or waterway na kahit anong gawin yung build better dyan, babahain kayo talaga and especially with climate change happening.
Tama po yun. So in addition to being in a very low portion of the city, katabi po sila nung river. So meron po tayong Marikina River, of course, and the Nangka River.
Okay,
So these are the 2 affected barangays.
okay, when you say affected, kasi itong video namin na ito, medyo lubog ang mga first floor ng mga lugar. Ganyan po ba kasama yung nangyari dyan sa Barangay Tumana and Nangka?
Tama po yun. Tama po yun. So
Okay.
about second floor, karamihan po ended up on the roofs of their houses. And pero palagay ko po ang video na to, baka Provident po siguro bandayan. Hindi po yan yung Tumana and Nangka. Mas depressed po ang areas
Yeah.
na yun.
So, ibig niyo sabihin, pati yung Provident, tinamaan pa rin. Kasi maski na kami nagtatalo kami nung misis ko. Sabi ko, hindi, okay na yung Provident. They put up a pumping station, etc. Then she said, well, I'm not sure about that. So what happened with Provident Village?
Well, affected pa rin po kasi ang nangyari po is the dike collapsed. So, bumaha pa rin po sa Provident.
Okay, yun po, kinonfirm lang po ng ating agenda team ni Executive Producer Gab Malyari na yung video na yun was Provident Village. So it was even worse in Tumana and Nangka. Now, given this reality, Congresswoman, pasensya, transition ko little by little, no? Pero I'm wondering, di ba natin pwedeng kumbaga, I don't know, either you bring yung mga kababayan ng misis ko from the Netherlands to create dams and dikes dyan sa Marikina, or magagawa kayo ng bagong mga districts or constituency on higher ground. Kasi parang taon-taon na ito, all the experts are saying, there is no escaping this. This is going to be perennial.
Tama po, no? It's nakakasawa na, Cito, na every time na lang na meron tayong heavy rainfall, paulit-ulit po yung gantong klaseng eksena, lilikas ka sa evacuation center, babalik ka, maglilinis ka ng 2 to 3 weeks kasi lahat putikan, mawawala lahat ng documents mo. It's like you're starting from scratch, tapos yung personal belongings mo na naipundar mo, mawawala, uulit ka na naman. So nakakasawa na. We really need to have a permanent solution, and tama ka, no, dapat tanungin natin ang mga Dutch na eksperto po sa pagbabaha. And merong mga ilang projects naman na sana naman matuloy na. Merong isang DPWH na project which is yung construction of a water retention facility sa bandang Rodriguez Rizal. At sa tingin ko po personally, naniniwala po ako dun sa ganyang klaseng idea. So basically, it's like a giant swimming pool that you build sa bandang taas na ang purpose po ng dam na yan is not for water supply, not for energy supply, but rather for flood control. So secondary lang ang water supply, primarily it's for flood control. Tagasalo siya ng tubig doon sa bandang taas para hindi na po mapunta sa Marikina. Kasi kawawa kami, Cito, talagang kami yung tagasalo. Literally kami yung palanggana sa ilalim.
Ano ang magagawa ninyo as Congresswoman, given you still have 2 years and given how dedicated you are to your work, plus you have that very progressive bloc that you belong in, what can be done about this? Because, Joey Salceda also represents a constituency na taon-taon na lang ginugulpi ng mayon, kung hindi ng mayon, ng bagyo. Kayo taon-taon kung hindi binabaha, piniperwisyo ng tubig. What steps are you planning to undertake?
Of course, Congress holds the power of the purse. So ika nga, pera lang ang katapat. So itong kunikwento ko sa iyo, Cito, na water retention facility, this will cost about 30 billion pesos. So kailangan ma-authorize yan ng Congress. So that's the first. And number two, sa tingin ko, kailangan na natin i-review yung master plan for flood control. Hindi lang review, reassess, and at the same time, kailangan magkaroon tayo ng proper oversight dyan. Ang problema kasi, coordination. Dahil hindi lang naman ito problema ng infrastructure, problema rin ito ng illegal logging, illegal quarrying. So meron din dapat may role din dito ang DNR. Pero ang problema kasi tila uncoordinated ang mga government agencies, pati na rin ang LGUs. Kasi nga as I was explaining earlier, di ba, yung kung anong ginagawa ng mga taga Rizal banda sa taas, no? Apektado po kami, apektado din ang Pasig. So dapat magkaroon din ng LGU coordination. So tingin ko may pagkukulang pa rin sa ganyang klaseng coordination. So perhaps pwede tayong mag-institutionalize ng isang master plan for flood control, which again might require legislation.
Hindi ba mas practical, Congresswoman, na gumawa ka ng batas creating a special forces group na napakalaki ng sweldo, hindi mo sila makokorap, and then meron talaga silang sweeping powers na wala kaming pakialam kung anong distrito, anong bayan, etc. Pag may na-report na parang anti-kidnapping group, ito anti-logging, quarrying, etc. na itotokhang na lang nila lahat yan kasi alam nyo, nagagalit tayo dun sa mga naabibiktima ng Oplan Tokhang na mga drug dealer. Pero wala sa ating nagagalit sa how many Filipinos die every... Diyan ba sa Marikina, ilan ang namatay itong bagyo na ito?
4 po.
Ayun na, di ba? Bibilangin natin, 4 sasabihin, konti lang. Pero pag binilang natin for the last 10 years, I'm sure baka naka-40 na kayo dyan sa Marikina lang.
Palagay ko baka umabot pa nga ng daan-daan yan. Kasi ang Ondoy na lang alone, I think, well, I don't know the exact count, pero daan-daan po namatay sa Ondoy. But anyway, tama ka, no, Cito, I agree with you. Kaya lang, siguro hindi na natin kailangan i-preempt yan kasi meron pinasa ang Kongreso on third reading na creation of the Department on Disaster Resilience. So yan ay sponsored nga po ni Congressman Joey Salceda. So kung yan po ay matuloy, magkakaroon ng talagang separate agency na siya pong mamumuno po sa ganitong klaseng sitwasyon. And of course, kasama po dyan ang pag-prevent ng flooding. So yun, yung tinutukoy niyo po kanina na pwedeng gawin ng isang task force, palagay ko masasubsume dito sa DDR kung siya po ay pumasa sa Senado.
Parang Enforcement Bureau. Ako ay mag-a-apply na akong libreng consultant sa mga ganyan kasi ako ay na-experience ko sa Amerika yan, yung Enforcement Bureau na yan. Maghalo ka lang ng simento sa tumagas lang yung tubig sa sidewalk, sa may bangketa, yari ka, sarado yung construction site mo. Anyway, Congresswoman, you are pushing for a third tranche of the Bayanihan, if I got it correctly. But it seems that there is a pushback from Malacanang and from some other groups. What are you trying to do? Why are you doing it? And what do you have to say to those who are pushing back?
Well, I filed Bayanihan III last Tuesday. And so ang total po nito is 400 billion pesos. And ang 275 po dyan is dagdag ayuda. Of course, dahil sa pandemic. And then there is also 100 billion, this time naman po for rehab and ayuda na rin po para sa mga nabiktima ng sunod-sunod po na typhoon. So essentially, that's 400, including also 225 billion for COVID vaccines para masigurado na sapat ang ating pera para sa COVID vaccines. So bakit ito pinail? Dahil nag-announce ang Philippine Statistics Authority last week na ang ating contraction for the third quarter is 11.5%. So ang contraction natin sa first quarter is 0.7%. For the second quarter, it's 16.9%. For the third quarter, it's 11.5%. Just listening to those numbers, Hito, it's impossible na ang contraction natin overall for the entire 2020 is only 5.5%. So imposible na yon. Palagay ko it's going to be a way deeper contraction than that. And many international groups predict it can reach about a 10% contraction. So
That is based on the standard impact of COVID-19 and economic displacement.
wala pa
It
dyan
does
yung
not
typhoons.
exactly all 8 of those typhoons.
Tama po. So if you add that, that's about another 100 billion in damages. So total of 3.4 trillion losses ang estimate ko dyan. So ang problema Sito is dito sa ating budget for 2021, ang assumption ng budget na yan is our contraction for 2020 is 5.5%. So yung 4.5 trillion budget assumes na magre-responde tayo sa pagliit ng ating ekonomiya na only 5.5%. Pero as I mentioned, imposibleng 5.5% lang based on the numbers. So yung 4.5 trillion, kulang na. So yan ang aking premise. So although nagsasabi na yata po ang executive na mukhang premature daw ang filing ko, para sa akin Sito, ripe na ripe po ang Bayanihan 3. Nang dahil nga lumabas na ang Philippine Statistics Authority estimates ng GDP for the first 3 quarters. So tingin ko we really need to respond to that as early as now. Kasi nga ko ang inaasahan natin is bumalik na tayo on the recovery track next year. Kailangan masigurado na the government spends enough. Kasi napakakulang ng Bayanihan 2. 165 billion lang yan, Sito.
Okay.
So kulang ang 165 to address a 3.4 trillion peso damage. Diba? Parang sabi ko nga, it's like using a fire extinguisher to kill a forest fire. Or to use band-aid to cure heavy bleeding. So kulang.
Are you in any way or form controlled or can be stopped by the executive in pursuing this? Kasi parang nagre-react sila. Ay sige, mag-react kayo hanggang gusto ninyo. We have the power of the purse and we have the power to legislate. Can you just simply go ahead or is it possible that the president will just simply veto it?
Of course, lahat yan possible naman based on the rules. No? Parang dun sa rice bill na pinasalaman ng Kongreso and sinabi ng executive, masyadong malaki yan. And then we ended up with a compromise which is Bayanihan 2. So pwede pa rin yon. Kaya lang syempre, ideally, Sito, di ba? Sana magkasundo-sundo lahat because ultimately naman po, ang executive naman ang siyang mag-i-implement, di ba? So ang pinakamaganda para sa bayan is magkasundo-sundo. So kami naman po sa Kongreso is that's the proposal, and as of now po, I just checked. Meron na po akong 201 na co-authors. So that means that's more than half seem to support the idea, di ba? So sa Congress, it's easy to get that support.
Normally, in the legislative process, there is consultation. That's why you even have the LEDAC. And then, of course, you will call in the DOF, you will call in the various departments. Has there been prior consultation relative to your idea for Bayanihan 3? And privately, do they support Bayanihan 3 or are they saying, Ma'am Congresswoman, wala na kaming pagkukunan ng pera, papatayin kami ng mga taxpayer pag nag-tax pa kami ulit? Because someone will have to pay the bill and I'm sure it's going to come out of my pocket and everybody else's pocket.
Well, the usual procedure naman for any bill is that the resource persons come in kapag ma-refer na po yan sa committee. So
Yeah.
right now, kasi I just filed it last Tuesday, so we will wait for the committee referral, and it's when the committee takes it up that formally the resource persons, particularly NEDA and the DOF, will give their comments. Pero as of now po, humingi sila ng kopya ng bill, so siguro po pinag-aaralan na po nila. And anyway
Okay.
po, this is continuing naman, it's a continuing discussion. Since March po namin to pinag-uusapan. Siguro hindi lang nagkakasundo-sundo as to the total amount na ilalagay. Kasi if you recall, when Congress passed a rise, ang suggestion po namin para sa first tranche is dapat about 700 plus billion. Pero ang ending, 165 lang ang nilabas. Pero right now, ito, ang daming savings. Kasi when we were deliberating the budget, October 15, no, tinanong ko ang DBM kung magkano pa ang undisbursed doon sa 2020 budget. Sito, meron pang 1.3 trillion pesos na undisbursed as of
Okay.
October 15. So again, isa yun sa aking trigger din nitong pag-file ng Bayanihan 3.
Okay, pasensya ka na, Congresswoman, ngayon, I will ask you to become a professor of economics, and hindi ako pumasa ng Eco 11, so ako sasabihin ko na sa inyo, pakituruan na lang kami, no? Kasi ang thinking ko, okay, may 1 point something trillion na hindi pa nagagastos, that is of the 2019 budget, di ba? 2019-2020 budget. Okay, 2020 budget. Ang problema natin, wala naman tayong kinita ng 2020. Karamihan sa amin hindi na makapagtrabaho o walang trabaho, maraming negosyo, hindi na nakapagbayad ng taxes. Wouldn't it be prudent na, teka, let's keep all of that on reserve, wag nating ilabas yan, kasi baka if there ever comes a really, really major problem where we need money, walang-wala na talaga tayo.
Well, una sa lahat, pagtitignan natin yung reports ng ating Treasury Departments. And yung Treasury kasi yung tagatago ng ating cash, di ba? Maliwanag naman na meron parang, this is as of end September, the last time I checked, merong 1 trillion. So may cash, and then at the same time, may undisbursed pa na funds based on the 2020 budget. So, in other words, meron and in addition, umutang tayo ng malaki.
Yun.
So,
Okay.
pag iisipin natin, meron talagang kakayahang gumastos. So, sana magkaroon ng willingness na gumastos. Kasi, as you pointed out, dapang-dapa tayong lahat. Ang daming nawalan ng trabaho, ang daming nagsarang negosyo, ang daming sektor na pwedeng magpaikot ng pera sa ating ekonomiya is the government. Yun yung esensya ng pump priming.
Okay, paki-explain nga sa amin, Congresswoman, kasi base sa ginagawa ninyo sa Kongreso, the members of Congress want to program funds para may panggasto sa mga kailangang gastusan, yung sinasabi niyong pump priming. Pero doon sa 700 billion baka yun na Bayanihan 1 or 2, ang na-approve, ang napagkasunduan lang 164 something. Bakit ganun? Bakit nagpipigil yung gobyerno natin when Congress itself is saying already, you're the voice of the people? What is the logic in restraining the spending given the problems of Filipinos and of the nation?
Sa totoo lang, Sito, hindi ko alam ang sagot dyan. Paulit-ulit ko rin tinatanong, no? Ano bang dahilan? Kasi sa aking palagay, merong cash, umutang pati tayo, at meron pang natitirang appropriations, at merong need. Napakalaki na need. So, pag ipagsama-sama po natin yan, hindi ko po maintindihan bakit merong lack of willingness to spend. So, palagay ko,
is it part of what we used to call in UP window dressing? Yung bang pinagaganda, maganda naman I mean, compared to all the nations in the world, we're all in the same boat. So, there is really no need to window dress. Pero parang ang feeling ko, Ah, kasi ito ba yung konsepto ng window dressing, pinagaganda yung numbers para pagdating sa investors, mas malakas ang loob nilang tumaya sa atin?
Well, hindi ko po alam, pero ako kasi I just look at the numbers. It is what it is. Mismo
Hmm.
nga ang Philippine Statistics Authority nagsabi ito na nga. Itong pagbagsak ng ekonomiya, sunod-sunod, napakalaking pagbagsak. So, ako I just base it on that eh, 'di ba? Official statistics 'yan, Sito. Galing yan
And
sa
you,
gobyerno mismo, 'di ba?
and you're not an oppositionist. You're not a critic of government. You have been a level-headed, member of Congress. So parang I'm not an enemy of the state, mind you. It's just parang hindi ko maintindihan eh. Parang naglalabas na nga kayo ng legislation para bigyan sila ng pera. Parang sila pa yung takot na gastusan yung problema. In any case, Congresswoman, pasensya ka na. Naubusan na naman tayo ng oras, but please, no, please just let us know. Please don't be shy. Contact us if there are developments, if there are things that the public needs to know. Because clearly, we support Bayanihan 3 or your motion for Bayanihan 3 because pag tumingin lang tayo sa Marikina, gulpe. Pag tumingin tayo sa Bicol Region, gulpe. Pag tumingin tayo sa Region 2, gulpe. Kailangan labasan na yan, throw money at it kasi yung pera hindi natin makakain o itago man ang itago yan. Thank you very much, Congresswoman.
Thank you po. Stay well.
Okay, yan po si Congresswoman Stella Quimbo ng 2nd District of Marikina. And I'm sorry if sometimes I might sound negative or questioning the intention of government, but it just defies logic. And even Congresswoman Quimbo could not answer the question. Why is it that here you have a Congress so supportive of the executive offering to roll out a legislation that authorizes the buildup of funds to address our disasters left and right. But they're saying, oh, not now, it's premature, it's like this, it's like that. And then, pag nagkalabasan na ng problema, ay biglang mangyayari, maghahabulan tayo, maghahanapan ng pera. The president will call Congress to work overtime or during recess, etc. Siguro po, dapat Mr. President, hindi ko po kayo dinidiktahan, Digong, sinasabi ko lang po, baka dapat yung mga public relations sa mga image building PR expert ninyo, pauwiin nyo muna sa mga probinsya nila. Pabayaan nyo na muna itong mga LEDAC, itong mga finance, etc. Mag-sit down at saka DSWD. Kasi alam nyo po, yung pera kahit itago na itago sa bangko, hindi makakain yan. Walang pakinabang yan. Anyway, let's go for a break. And when we return, let's go to our next guest, Joey Concepcion. I don't know if it's Joey or if it's going to be DSWD, but we'll be right back here on Agenda. Welcome back to the program Agenda. I'm Cito Beltran, your host, and you are watching us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250. And if you are transitioning from your home to a project to your office, you can continue watching us, granting that there is proper signal via phone on your Facebook page. We are available on Facebook, facebook.com/onenewsph. Okay, now let's go to our next guest, our regular, Mr. Joey Concepcion, Presidential Advisor on Entrepreneurship. Joey, good morning to you. And there we go, Joey. Okay, I heard him already. There, let's try that again. Okay, there you go. I can see you and I can hear you. You can't hear. Okay, let's.
Hello.
Okay, can you hear me now, Joey? Okay, let's correct that connection first, and then normally Joey Con's connections are pretty good, so maybe just a technical adjustment. In any case, let's go to the review on that particular concern, and here we go. The private sector is eyeing to provide assistance to the government in the procurement of COVID-19 vaccines once already available. Vaccines will be coming from a leading pharmaceutical company who has no profit with the pandemic. So he'll have to figure that out, what that exactly means. Presidential advisor for entrepreneurship and Go Negosyo founder Joey Concepcion said he is already coordinating with the country's vaccine SARS. So rather good news, no? Sila po ay yung grupo ni Joey ay magtutulong to access the vaccines and distribute the vaccine. You might be thinking, oh, masyado namang advance, wala pa nga yung vaccine, pinag-uusapan pa lang. Actually, they're already making pronouncements abroad. They're already making pronouncements in Asia, America, na meron na. In fact, some government official, Philippine government official said yesterday na ginagamit na daw sa ng China yung vaccine nila. Pero we'll find out from Joey Con. He's right here again. Back with us, Joey Con. Good morning, senor.
Hi, good morning, Cito.
Okay, well, first of all, congratulations. Was I right when I said earlier that it's the 15th year anniversary of Go Negosyo?
Yes, we celebrate it this year, and we have 1 week of a lot of conferences next week. That's the main week of the event next week.
Okay, I know that your mind is just like all over the place. Go Negosyo here, vaccines, testing. Okay, what is your priority right at the moment, Joey?
Well, as you know, ever since the pandemic, we've been focusing on trying to create visibility. And visibility can only be attained in more testing initiatives. We started with the rapid antibody test kits. We moved on to donating to government pooled PCR equipments. Then we funded research on pooled testing, which has now going to be reviewed by DOH for the protocols. We implemented it in the barangays. We moved beyond that. We've gone to validating antigen test kits. We've also worked with the distributors for bringing the Israel technology on breath and saliva testing using a computer base. So they're going on with their trials with as well now we are now looking at similar to what the Red Cross is doing. We're looking at using saliva as the base for PCR testing, no? And that will further bring down the cost. So the game changers here is on PCR testing. Pooled PCR testing is now being deployed, and if the research comes out that saliva is equally as good as swab, then it brings down the cost further. And that's what we want to see, that testing becomes more affordable. Now, the greater scene is now on the vaccine. This is where many developed countries like US, Europe, and some countries in Asia have purchased and placed a deposit much earlier, no, to secure their vaccines for the year 2021. We've seen the Pfizer announce the results of their vaccine, which is about 90 or 95% effective. And of course, Moderna just came out also with the results, no, of their vaccine. And we're now in discussions with a pharmaceutical company that has a program to help the country now, and it is what they call zero profit for the year 2021. Now, these discussions have been ongoing together with myself and Secretary Galvez, who represents, and it's the vaccine czar, no, for the government. So we're working closely together. I feel that the private sector, despite all the challenges that they face in their respective companies, losing money, and many of them are in the tourism sector, in the airline sector, continue to support this initiative because, see, what's important in the earlier game, testing and creating visibility, and now looking towards the vaccine, is to open the economy. We talk about the stimulus package, and I think that's very important what Stella Quimbo is trying to do. But the stimulus package will only work when you open the economy more and more. So since now that we are opening up the economy more, but not enough yet, no, to bring back lives. Normally, you can only do that when you have a clear signal that the infection is really going down and that it will not rebound. And the only way to do that is a cure to the virus, which is the vaccine. So, and this is why we're encouraged to support the government. And hopefully next week, we will sign the tripartite agreement, which will state clearly that the pharmaceutical company and the donor will also be protected from suits that may arise, because there are always risks in any vaccine, despite it being 90 to 95% efficacy. Nobody can say, and you can have anybody just filing cases. But the good intention really here is that you can see it from the rest of the world, everybody is jumping into, and we are concerned that we might not get our fair share, no, if we don't take urgent, and the president has done so by authorizing the purchase and the advance payment of these vaccines. No? So the private sector has its own initiative in tandem with the government, because all of these donations that we will do will have to go to the Department of Health. They will be the one to implement the deployment of these vaccines to the people, and not the private sector.
Yeah, but Joey, I don't want to start a chicken fight here, so to speak. But you are the private sector, the businessmen, your group, the people you represent, are clearly taking initiatives, moving ahead of the pack. And I've seen a pattern in your activity, in case some people haven't figured it out. What I've seen is that you are trying to bring to the attention of the DOH, the national government, options, technology, and science that they could incorporate in their fight against COVID-19. Because normally, medicine tends to be traditional unless there's something spectacular breakthrough. They tend to be traditional. They also tend to be slow. That's the current criticism regarding the situation right now. We still have no decision regarding the price on the RT-PCR testing. We have no confirmation regarding Avigan. We still have to deal with the saliva test, the breath analyzer, etc., etc. You're in the circle of power. What's being done about this? I respect that the DOH is slow because they have to be sure and scientific, but some people are saying, look, the scientists and the systems of the United States, Europe, and China are far more superior. We are simply wasting time doing the same tests twice.
Well, in fairness, I think, yes, the DOH has to be very careful, but it's really a balance between the situation, no? And we've in some way been pushing harder because we feel that in everything there is some element of risk. Earlier I said there's really no perfect test. I've seen
Yeah.
PCR tests also turn false positive. No, but in the end, I think both public and private sector working together is happening today. And Secretary Galvez, who is the chief implementer for the vaccine program, has moved quite aggressively and has responded to the private sector. By no, I'm saying he's a man of action by far, no? And it's a pleasure to work with him, and
Oh,
he's
no, no
very
doubt. No,
transparent.
yeah, no doubt about Galvez. My hat's off to the guy. I mean, he does the job.
So we're working with people in government who can really push the programs as fast as possible, and if we work out a good vaccine program and the government is taking actually the lead because they will be the ones ordering the bulk. The private
Yeah.
sector cannot order what the government has to order. Secretary Galvez has stated that they plan to inoculate 25 million people this year in 2021, which is a good target, considering that we could not bet as far as the Americans who book almost the entire thing. They have the money, they have the resources. Of course, they have the vaccines companies in their country. No? In our case, we have to be more prudent. We have a procurement law that there are certain rules that you have to follow, and I understand the government has to follow those rules until that law is changed. But the president has ordered the emergency use of these vaccines and asked the FDA to speed up the approval. So I think we're aligned with regards to that. Now, what the private sector is doing this because per Secretary Galvez, he wants the private sector to also take care of its own flock. In other words, our own employees, our contractuals, provided that it meets the same priority area, which is the frontliners. In the case of government, it is the medical people, the soldiers, the policemen, and the poorest of the poor. So the private sector is in discussion also with Secretary Galvez that a portion of the donation. So the way it works is the pharmaceutical company, we purchase X quantity to pharmaceutical pharma company, and we donate the entire thing to the government, and we have our wish list. In other words, we have not drawn out the implementation plan, but a portion of that will be for the employees and the contractual employees. But the condition is the poorest of the poor and the frontliners. So I guess since DOH will be implementing the vaccination program, and so that is really their job, that we will, I guess, give a list of who these people will be. And of course, these are purely voluntary. Nobody will be forced to take the vaccine if they're not comfortable with
Well,
whether.
let me pursue that point that you mentioned that the private sector, businessmen like you, family heads like me, take care of our own flock, and that's fine by me. And I think to a large extent, many people in the private sector won't mind paying for the vaccine kasi nakakabili nga tayo ng cellphone, nakakabili tayong laptop at saka motorsiklo yung pang vaccine. But here's the question, Joey. Are you going to push for a limit on the price of the vaccine locally? Kasi yun yung problema natin. That's our problem with the RT-PCR right now. The price range is so wide, it's anybody's guess what the average is. Now, the worry is baka pagdating naman yung vaccine na yan, outside of government, if private sector decides, I'm not going to wait, I want to buy for my people as well, will there be a maximum percentage profit? Will there be a price cap, etc., or that will still be decided or discussed?
My understanding in the year 2021, due to the limited supply of the vaccine, every effort will be basically G to G. So the pharma company that we're talking to is for no profit. So this is to be given technically free to the public. From my
Okay.
end, the private sector is not charging anything to its employees and its contractual employees as well. Uh, and I'm sure that the government is also not going to charge the people, no, because I may be wrong whether they will use PhilHealth, but I feel that this will be given free to the people, no. The pharma company basically on the zero profit, the price of the vaccine is very low. Now, of course, like Moderna and Pfizer, you already know the results of the efficacy. So now, if you want to put an order, everybody in the world has already placed their orders, and definitely it will be more challenging to take orders in at any quantity. The reason why this pharma company is opening it up is that there is still some element of risk, no? Whether the vaccine will work. And if in the case of the private sector, as we put our funds in, and for whatever reason, it does not make phase three, which is to me unlikely, then we will lose our deposit, or we will only get back part of our deposit. So the private sector is taking an element of risk. But in the end, what encourages us is the price is very low. Number two, that is the only option that we have left, because if we don't put some money to take some risk, then we might be left behind. Uh, and we want to see that the Filipino people do have hope, no, that there is light at the end of the tunnel. To me, the most important really is that to bring back hope, because hope brings up confidence. And without confidence that we are going to get out of this the pandemic, then people will be discouraged. And that is the only reason why I feel the private sector is very encouraged to support the vaccine program. And by the way, the government did not ask us to support it. No, we are doing it on our own, whether the government does the program or not. This program will continue with this pharma company, despite whatever decision the government makes. But the government is also proceeding along the same line with the same pharma company. But what I'm trying to say, Cito, here, everybody in the world has taken a risk. You have to make a bet. It is not like this is a regular flu vaccine that you can now buy commercially. One you will not be able to do, because the limited access of the vaccine manufacturers, they have already prioritized who will get it because they have paid their deposits. Now,
Yeah.
maybe in 2022, the game changes totally and everybody can buy it freely, no?
Okay. Now, there's so many things on my mind here. You were talking about opening the economy, etc. Joey Salceda, Congressman Joey Salceda, was suggesting or trying to pitch an idea that from a 40-hour week, we go cut back to a 35-hour work week. He's actually filed a bill for this. Have you been consulted? What is the sentiment of the private sector? Because my reaction was, are we even hitting 35-hour work weeks?
Well, no, actually, my mind has been all over the place. So I've not paid attention to that. But actually, right now, working online at home is technically like working almost every minute, because there is no time frame anymore. You can work early in the morning, you can run all the way through. So it's changed. Unlike when you go to work, that you go at 8 o'clock and then you leave at 5, and that's it. But
Yeah.
here, it's basically any time is work time. No? So I don't know what the objective of Joey Salceda is. Maybe I know what the DTI is trying to do is to regulate the time so that not everybody will be going to work at the same time, so that you can cut down the number of people in the transportation, reduce the infection. So that's being discussed. The private sector is supporting that. No.
Okay, we have a question here. Are you at liberty to mention how much the price will be, the projected price will be for the vaccine on per dose? Because When remdesivir, the medicine for COVID, reducing hospitalization came out, everybody's saying, "Yeah, we have a medicine," and then they found out it was something like the full treatment option was like $3,000 or something like that. What about the vaccine? Because the fear is that the vaccine is going to cost a fortune because everyone is throwing this $1 million sums all over the place to book for the vaccines.
Well, since this pharma company has launched a zero profit for the year 2021, the vaccine price is definitely very low. I believe it is the lowest price vaccine today because of the program but it has certain conditions, no? And also that I was told that they are looking at doing trials in December, no, here in the Philippines, which will be good, no. So we will be able to see that. Uh, they will be having a readout sometime anytime soon, which will now determine whether the vaccine will work or not. So these are milestones that we are looking at. But the program really is to help the Filipino people. And they have this program that they offered these countries. So the private sector said, okay, we will join the program. We are making a bet because the private sector always makes a bet on things. And I think the risk reward is great. At least we have a position. If we lose that position, it's not going to blow our pockets. Because I think no position is worse because then you have no direction of whether you have the vaccine or not. So here, unlike if this were not a pandemic, then who cares? We're not going to do it. But this is a pandemic situation whereby if you don't have some vaccines by the year 2021, your Filipino people will feel sad and say, wow, why are we the only ones not with the vaccine? Why are the other countries with vaccines? So it's very imperative that we have to have our own vaccines coming to this country. And that's what Secretary Galvez, and in our case, it's a small fraction to what they're bringing. We are going to do it. And also that we want to help the government and we want to ensure the poorest of the poor of our employees to really have protection. No? Because remember, the private sector comprises the entire workforce of the entire Philippines. No? We're the whole network. So in the case of Go Negosyo, which we're donating, I can reveal these 50,000 doses, it's because we want to direct this to our micro, small, and medium entrepreneurs. Now, the selection process will have to be determined, but it's a small quantity, no? That's only 25,000 people because it's 2 doses required. But it's a small help, no? We don't have resources like others, but put together all the private sector companies coming in creates a bigger impact. And of course, the government has the funds to also do this. And I'm glad and I'm happy that the president is taking also that the calculated risk to put the advance payment because we have no other option. This is the requirement of all of these pharma companies. Or else they'll be selling it now at very expensive prices. No? And that's even if you can get these vaccines now that already have shown that they are very high in efficacy level, like Moderna and Pfizer, and soon the others will be announcing. So I just feel that the only way that we can really go back to our normal lives is to get the cure into this country as soon as possible. Of course, we 2022 there'll be more supply, but can we wait one more year of suffering? We can see what's happening in America and Europe, all the resurgence of all the infection is back again.
No, America, I just looked it up the last night. It's 250,000 plus people dead. We are nearing our 8,000 mark. So when you mentioned earlier that Go Negosyo is going to donate 50,000 doses of the vaccine, well, that's not a small sum considering that will be at least 25,000 people who presumably won't die or won't suffer from COVID-19. In any case, do you have a timeline, an actual timeline? Because you and Secretary Galvez have been talking about this. The president has talked about putting down the money on the table, but are there specific parties, specific timelines we're talking about?
So we have the group of companies that are coming in, of course, Tessie, BDO, Rigazon, Michael Tan, of course, the William Bello, many others now are coming in. We have to sign by next week. And there is a timeline because if we miss that timeline and the results come out, then we will deal is off. No, so we have to do it as soon as possible. So we've given a reasonable timeline, and I'm sure that the private sector will be able to meet that timeline. I'm sure also the government will find ways to meet that timeline, and they are rushing it as well. I've seen the interaction between the pharma company and the government. I'm very hopeful under Secretary Galvez' leadership. I believe he can do it, and I think we have to do it for our Filipino people. That's my whole point. I've seen so many people suffer, and you've been in our show, in Go Negosyo. Every night we award prizes, and these people who get the prizes are literally, I mean, really crying. You can see the sense of despair that they are not doing well. Yes, we're trying to pump in more money, but the banks are trying to do what they can in lending. But in the end, if the business model of these entrepreneurs are somehow hampered because of the infection level, what can you do? Even if nobody's going to lend them money because clearly they're not viable at this point in time. So we
Okay,
really have
so
to bring back the economy to make it more viable. Then
okay,
they can
so
borrow money.
so the champions, the leaders of private sector of business are going to get together by next week. You all sign on the dotted line. You do your arrangement with government. Does this mean that private sector is also going to like guarantee what the government is going to pay? What is the working
No,
arrangement?
no.
How is it, Joey?
The government has its own negotiations with the same pharma company, among other many pharma companies that they're
Okay,
talking to. So
okay,
each one is different. So they have their own track. It just happens that in this pharma company, the government is also taking advantage of its generous program on
mhm,
the zero profit for 2021. But
okay.
the government is talking to many other pharma companies as well. So they should not depend only on one pharma company. They should put their bets in maybe five pharma companies uh,
Okay.
to manage the risk. No.
And I presume you are not at liberty to say the name of this very generous zero profit for 2021 pharma company?
Yes, because of the NDA agreements we signed. But next week,
Okay.
when we sign, then we can announce it. Right now, I think we will be able to sign. It looks fine. But until that signature is in that paper, then I'd rather not disclose it.
You're safe with me. You know me. I will not badger. In any case, thank you for joining us this morning. Thank you for bringing some sunshine and new information, new data, and at least showing to the public that people in government are working. Leaders are getting things done, like Secretary Lito Galvez. And thank you for being there and being the champion of the private sector. Thank you very much, Joey.
Thank you, Cito. Thank you.
Okay, that's Joey Concepcion, the founder of Go Negosyo. He's also the current, he has been the boss of Concepcion Industries, if I have that correctly. But in any case, more than anything, Joey and his associates in the private sector have been pushing to bring to the attention of the government new technology, new approaches, new ideas, and perhaps introducing a sense of take a risk, because yun po ang wala sa government natin because everything is so structured, so set up na may timelines, may process, may procedures, mayroong laws, etc. na under the new normal or the right normal, which is what I'd like to call it, everything flies out the window because with the vaccine, the government now has to put the money on the table. Put your money where your mouth is, and then we will give you a guarantee on the vaccine. Una-unahan po ang labanan. So let us support the government, let us support private sector in their attempt to close deals, book and make reservations for the vaccines. Let's pray for it, Lord. To the Lord, let's pray for it, that it happens and that we get the right amount, our share in this arrangement. Kasi po, with the right amount of vaccines arriving in the Philippines by 2021, our economy can at least, kumbaga malakas na ang loob natin. Yun yung booster. Yun yung booster and insurance natin. Okay, let's go for a break, and when we come back, we catch up with the Department of Social Welfare, DSWD, and we will find out kamusta na po dun sa mga areas affected and how is the DSWD coping. We'll be right back here on Agenda. Okay, welcome back to the program Agenda, and you continue to watch us via Signal TV channels 8 and 250, and on Facebook.com/OneNewsPH and YouTube OneNewsPH. Okay, let's move on to our third and final interview for today. We will be speaking with Irene Dumlao as a spokesperson of the Department of Social Welfare. And there you go, DSWD. Irene, good morning to you.
Morning, Sir Cito.
Pagpasensya mo na ako, Irene. Mukhang na-all-timers na naman ako. Department of Social Welfare and Development ba?
Yes po, sir.
Okay. Nininig ko. Kasi alam mo, inabutan ko niyang DSWD, SWA. SWA pa yan. Social Welfare Agency. Panahon ng lola ko. Okay, who worked with SWA. In any case, mukhang napapag-initan ang DSWD or na-question ng mga senador dahil ang dami-dami daw ninyong pera. The DSWD has billions and billions of funds, but you don't seem to have the capacity to spend it. Parang weird kasi 8 bagyo na ang dumaan, kaliwat kanan pwede kang gumastos ng pera. Irene, I'll give you the chance to explain this to our viewers.
Sir Cito, thank you very much for giving DSWD this platform para po ma-explain natin or we give detailed explanation on the budget that is that is the center of the well, it's an issue right now. Una, yung pong 83 billion pesos has already been earmarked. Nakaprogram na po iyan sa various programs and services of the department. As a matter of fact, 48.3 billion of that has been programmed for the Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program, cash grants of our beneficiaries. Dahil Sir Cito, kung matatandaan po natin, yung cash grants ng ating mga beneficiaries, periodic po yan ibinibigay. Every 2 months, no, ang distribution ng kanilang cash grants. And the remaining 48.3 billion is covers the month of August to December. And considering that October na po nagkaroon ng pasok, yung August and September educational cash grants have already been requested by the DSWD for realignment sa Department of Budget and Management. That amounts to more than 7 billion pesos. We requested for modification of that to educational assistance under the assistance to individuals in crisis situation. But the rest of the amount, Sir Cito, will be used to provide the cash grants of our beneficiaries and of course to cover the operational and program costs. Likewise, 2.1 billion has been allotted also for the the supplementary feeding program for children. Yung amount po na yan ay download na natin sa mga field offices and the local government units. But of course, there are challenges in the implementation of the supplementary feeding program because of the implementation of the community quarantines. And apart from that, nagkaroon rin tayo ng mga challenges in the procurement of the raw materials dahil nga po of the economic inactivity in most of the parts of the country.
Yeah.
So, nahirapan tayo maghanap ng mga suppliers. But there are alternative measures that the DSWD has implemented and introduced. One of which nga is the conduct of community feeding, kung saan dinadala na rin natin yung mga pagkain para sa mga bata. And dahil nga po wala rin namang mga pasok sa mga child development centers, we had to do house-to-house feeding na po.
Yeah, Irene, time out now. Irene, sorry to interrupt, no, but I'm just wondering, complicated process because of COVID-19, hard to get suppliers, hard to set up feeding stations. Although I see the need for feeding stations, wouldn't it be simpler to just give cash? Kasi maraming LGUs ngayon, nagsasabi, wag na po kayo magpadala ng relief good, magpadala na lang kayong pera, kami na ang bibili, kami na ang susuporta sa economy namin.
Yes, Sir Cito. That is why nga po for the supplementary feeding program, we have also engaged the local government units because we understand their sentiments and we also honor and respect their recommendations and their positions. In addition to that, Sir Cito, we would also like to mention that of the funds mentioned, meron ding naka-allocate dyan na 2.6 billion for the Sustainable Livelihood Program. However, 2.4 billion of that was only released to us through ASARO dated October 22. Yan ay 2.4 billion. But nonetheless, nakapag-release na tayo sa ating mga field offices ng 1.2 billion just so that we expedite the release of the grants to our beneficiaries. Likewise, for the social pension for indigent senior citizens, may naka-allocate na po dyan na 3.9 billion pesos. Under the assistance to individuals in crisis situation, meron din pong allotted na 13.7 billion that will be fully utilized until the end of this year. Now, what we are trying to drive at, Sir Cito, is the 75 billion remaining funds ay earmarked po for programs and services indicated in the General Appropriation Act. Now, saan po galing yung mga karagdagang pondo? If you would recall, Bayanihan 1 was passed by Congress, and we were given budget together with a mandate to provide social amelioration to around 18 million families. And we were
Correct.
able to disperse that naman po in 2 tranches. Like, Bayanihan 2 was again passed by the Congress, and we were given again 6 billion pesos as additional budget to provide
Yeah.
again emergency subsidy to target beneficiaries. And
Irene,
continue the
sorry Irene, no, to cut you off, no? Kasi hindi naman ako congressman, hindi naman ako si President Duterte. So parang I don't wanna create this awkward situation na parang kang nag-accounting sa akin, ano? Parang mo lumalabas para akong tatay mo na nagsasabi kung dito ko po ginastos yung mga baong ko, daddy, no? But here's the thing. Why are our senators getting this impression? Kasi parang, ano ba ito, delayed lang yung kanilang feedback or hindi updated yung kanilang information, or is there a lack of communication or consultation directly with the DSWD? Kasi parang nagkaalaman lang kayo during the hearing, pero tapos lumabas na sa media. So I was kind of like wondering, ba't ganun? If you listen to the DSWD, the accounting and the reporting is correct and proper. If you listen to the senators and the congressmen, parang may anomaly.
Well, Sir Cito, unang-una, iginagalang po natin yung ating mga senators, their recommendations, of course, and their positions. But what we would like to point out is there had been a series of consultations and meetings with our honorable senators, and we were able naman po to provide the necessary information just so that they would understand where the fund of the DSWD is being utilized. And, well, we really could not say, but we would just like to provide additional information to the public just so that you would better understand kung ano naman po yung ginagawa na ng DSWD. Because
Okay.
we also wanted to point out that the Department of Social Welfare and Development has not been remiss of its functions, particularly in its mandate to provide the necessary assistance to the poor, the marginalized, and the vulnerable, especially in these trying times.
Okay, ngayon, the question, Irene, is, okay, proof is in the eating. Sabi nga nila, proof of the pudding is in the eating. We can see by the work, based on the work that's done, what's happening with the SWD during this parade of typhoons. Kasi pag pinanood mo yung mga reports, parang wala nang katapusan na paghihirap at saka pangangailangan. Are we catching up with this unexpected flood of needs?
Yes, Sir Cito. In fact, we would like to mention that, well, as of yesterday's report, what I have right now here, for Typhoon Molly, more than 82.3 million pesos has been provided by the DSWD to the local government units as augmentation assistance para po matugunan yung pangangailangan ng kanilang mga constituents, especially affected by the nagdaang typhoon. Likewise, for Typhoon Ulysses, ongoing yung ating augmentation support to the local government units. As a matter of fact, as of yesterday, more than 68 million pesos worth of assistance has already been extended by the DSWD through our various field offices, particularly in regions 1, 2, Calabarzon, 3, Mimaropa, 5, Cordillera Administrative Region, and the National Capital Region.
How is this done, Irene? Kasi ewan ko baka naman hindi lang kasi kayo mahilig sa optics and publicity, no? Kasi in past governments, past administration, makikita mo yung mga official ng DSWD, pagkalalaki ng mga DSWD sa likod nila, sa dibdib nila, etc. How is the current leadership and DSWD doing the public assistance? Is it through channels, through governors, mayors, or NGOs? Kasi in the past, kayo yung nasa frontline. Paano ginagawa ngayon?
Ngayon po, Sir Cito, ang instruction pa talaga ni Secretary Bautista is boots on the ground. So all our field offices, our regional directors are in close coordination with the local government officials. We have personally seen this, no? Tayo mismo pumunta sa Catanduanes with Secretary Bautista. He has also been in Albay and in other parts of the country. But he is in close coordination with our regional directors. So the DSWD po kasi being the lead in food and non-food items cluster of the NDRIMC, tayo po ay nagbibigay ng mga family food packs and other non-food items to the local government units as augmentation support to their of goods, because the local government units have their own resources as well. They also have their own quick response funds na ginagamit po nila to respond to the needs of their constituents.
So in the end, Irene, ang nakikita ng tao yung local government officials. Hindi na I mean, I'm not criticizing DSWD kasi may mga nagtatanong parang ba't hindi na namin nakikita yung DSWD? So obviously, ang nasa harapan ngayon or the ones in the front are the local government officials. You simply augment or send the supplies to them.
Well, not only that, Sir Cito, we are all as part also of, as lead also of the camp coordination and camp management cluster of the NDRIMC, the DSWD provides technical assistance to the local government units in managing yung pong kanilang mga evacuation centers. Kung kaya nakikita nyo po talaga yung mga angels in red vest, the DSWD personnel on the ground, because we recognize also na kinakailangan talaga na nating tulungan yung mga local government units dahil kulang rin yung kanilang mga kasamahan, yung mga kanilang manpower. So the angels in red vest are seen sa mga evacuation centers, doon po sa pamamahagi ng mga family food packs, in the hauling likewise of these materials that are being brought to the affected areas. So again, as lead in the camp coordination and camp management cluster, we provide assistance to the LGUs in ensuring that there are women and child-friendly spaces in evacuation centers.
Okay.
Social interventions are being extended to the affected internally displaced persons, because DSWD really recognizes to provide this kind of intervention to restore the normal psychosocial functioning of the affected families and individuals. Likewise, we are there in the ground to see or to ensure na merong mga women and child-friendly spaces dahil kinakailangan pa rin natin pangalagaan, protektahan yung kagalingan, the interest and the welfare of the women and children, even if they are in the evacuation centers.
Lalo na sa mga banyo, and yung dignidad nila, yung hindi sila nabobosohan o binabastos.
That's true, Sir Cito. And apart from that, we are also providing assistance to ensure that the minimum health and safety protocols are being followed or observed dun sa evacuation centers, kasi nandito pa rin naman po ang banta ng COVID-19. So kinakailangan natin na tulungan ang mga local government units in facing the challenges and ma-address natin yung pangangailangan dun po sa baba. But certainly, Sir Cito, the DSWD workforce, yung ating pong mga kawani, nandun po sa ground and assisting the local government units, provide the necessary assistance po dun sa mga
siguro hindi mapapil si si Secretary Bautista kanya nasabi ko yon. In any case, quick question lang, last 1 minute. May pera pa ba kayo? May pondo pa ba kayo? Kasi Santa Cruzan ng bagyo, ang pangamba namin, baka maubusan na kayo dyan.
Well, Sir Cito, tayo nagpapasalamat sa Department of Budget and Management because rini-replenish po nila yung ating quick response funds. Napakadali po yung kanilang pagtugon sa ating mga request. In that manner, we have more than enough resources to sustain itong pagbibigay natin ng tulong. In fact, in our National Resource Operations Center, patuloy and ongoing yung ating repacking of the family food packs and non-food items. Ongoing yung ating collaboration with the Armed Forces of the Philippines, the Philippine National Police, the Philippine Coast Guard for the hauling and yung pag-ferry ng mga goods na ito doon sa mga affected areas. So with the collaboration of the government agencies, of the various government agencies, we can ensure that the assistance will be sustained and patuloy tayong makapagpamahagi po ng tulong sa ating pong mga kababayan.
Okay, well, that's good to hear, Irene. Alam mo, kahit na papetik-petik kami dito, nag-aalala kami. Kasi siyempre kayo yung nasa harap, kami nakaupo. I hope that this is sustained. And thank you. And please be careful. And our prayers go to all the members of DSWD. At kayo naman pamilya as far as I'm concerned. Sabi ko nga sa'yo, yung lola ko ay nanggaling sa SWA. Okay. Thank you very much, Irene.
Thank you very much, Sir Cito. More power to you.
Okay, yan po si Irene Dumlao of the Department of Social Welfare and Development. At saka baka mayroong mag-comment dyan na baka nang iintriga ako. Hindi po, kasi alam niyo nagkakaroon pang, kumbaga in the past kasi medyo very, very visible yung mga leaders ng DSWD, high profile, etc. And because it was in the interest of the department. Kanya lang, yung karamihan ng mga namumuno ngayon ng mga departamento ay ex-military, and publicity has never been part of the culture of the military. So chances are, katulad si Carlito Galvez, Secretary Galvez, we hear about him, but we rarely see him. And ako naman, hindi ako nangiistorbo. Alam nyo, dyan nga na-irita yung aking team agenda kasi pag kakagulo na, sabi ko, wag na nga kayong dumagdag, wag na nating interviewin yan. Interviewin na lang natin yung iba kasi may indulto na yung mga yan. In any case, it's never been the culture of military and ex-military personnel to be in the limelight or to publicize. So, intindihin po ninyo, tumatrabaho sila, hindi naman sila kailangan pang pumapel, ika nga, o magpakita. But we're giving them the airspace, the airtime, and that's it. Okay, it's the end of the week, and we've managed to go through all the issues, and we hope that all of you will have a happy weekend, a restful weekend, and that all of you will reflect on what you have, who you have, and lagi ko pong tinuturo. For this week, sinasabi ko, if the Lord speaks to you, parang naalala mo si ganito, or kamusta na kaya si ganito, or ano kaya ang ginagawa ni ganito, baka gusto naman ninyong tawagan si ganito. Okay? Kamustahin ninyo. Because chances are, the Lord Almighty God is using you or will use you to at least send a message to that person, I got this, or yeah, I'm thinking of you. And I hope that you do it. God bless all of you. Have a great weekend, and God bless your family.